When you picture Antarctica, you're probably thinking about ice, right? Just a massive, endlessly frozen wasteland where literally nothing changes. Well, we're going to completely shatter that myth today. Antarctica's history is actually this incredibly intense, dynamic epic of extreme climate change and biological adaptation. Welcome to The Explainer.
Okay, let's dive into this. 69 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, that sounds like a really nice spring afternoon, doesn't it? But no, this temperature was actually recorded in Antarctica. It's a staggering number that instantly disrupts everything we thought we knew about the bottom of the world. To figure out how a place buried under miles of solid ice could ever get that warm, we've got to look backward, like way, way backward.
Transport yourself back 56 million years and ask yourself what could possibly be stalking the jungles of Antarctica. Yeah, jungles. Back then, the continent wasn't this isolated freezer. It was actually still physically connected to South America, and because of that land bridge and a radically different global climate, the whole place was covered in lush, thriving green jungles, and those forests were absolutely teeming with life, including something truly terrifying stalking the forest floor.
As you'll see, we are going on an epic, full-circle journey today. We're starting 56 million years ago with land-based apex predators, plunging forward to 38 million years ago when massive aquatic hunters dominated the freezing waters, and finally leaping all the way to the winter of 2020 when record-breaking heat suddenly re-emerged. This timeline beautifully illustrates the absolutely massive climate shifts this continent has gone through.
Okay, back to the jungles. Paleontologists working on Seymour Island dug up these two massive, incredibly creepy claw bones. They were sharp, heavily curved, and packed serious power. Turns out they belong to forest raccoons, better known as terror birds. We're talking 6-foot-tall, flightless monsters weighing as much as a full-grown lion. They didn't even need wings because they sprinted at breakneck speeds. Basically, nightmare ostriches. Since Antarctica and South America were linked, these super predators just commuted south and completely thrived in the Antarctic heat for millions of years.
But, this reign of terror couldn't last forever. Enter the big freeze. The Earth's climate began to shift dramatically, and global cooling slowly started turning those vibrant green jungles into the harsh, frozen landscape we recognize today. As temperatures plunged, the terror birds' prey started to die off. Without enough food to fuel a massive, warm-blooded hunter, these super predators were doomed. Eventually, the terror bird vanished from the continent entirely, leaving zero descendants behind in the ice.
But here's the thing. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer resilience of life. The continent's story didn't end with the cold. It just completely transformed. The death of land predators paved the way for extreme biological adaptation in the freezing waters. Today, we've got emperor penguins diving over 1,800 feet deep and holding their breath for 20 minutes. Go back 38 million years, and you'd find human-sized ancient penguins with sharp spears for beaks. Look at the deep waters today. Colossal squids over 40 feet long with eyes the size of dinner plates, battling it out with packs of orcas that hunt like sea wolves. Even tiny plants, like pearlwort and moss, somehow cling to survival on the freezing surface. So as we shift from the crazy biology to the actual ice itself, we absolutely have to clear up a major misconception. I call it the myth of the straight line. People tend to think that when an iceberg breaks off a glacier, it just kind of peacefully floats in a straight line out to the open ocean until it melts. But the reality of Antarctic ice? It is nowhere near that simple, or that peaceful. The true life cycle of an iceberg is literally chaotic. When a massive chunk snaps off a glacier, it immediately faces all sorts of underwater obstacles. It doesn't just float away. Often it gets physically stuck on the seafloor, grounded for decades without moving a single inch. When it finally does snap free, it'll frequently get caught up in these massive, powerful ocean whirlpools, just spinning in circles for months. Only after all that does it get aggressively pushed around by ocean currents, tides, and fierce winds. It's a journey full of literal, unexpected twists. To put that chaos into perspective, take iceberg A23A. This massive block broke off and immediately froze right in place on the seafloor, just sitting there as a static ice island for 40 entire years, 4 decades. And when it's finally managed to break free, it didn't just smoothly sail away into the sunset. Nope, it immediately got trapped in a swirling ocean vortex for another 8 months. And honestly, the myths certainly don't stop with icebergs. Let's tackle a really wild internet rumor, the myth of the ice wall. You've probably seen the claims online that humans literally can't travel more than 311 miles inland because there's this magical, impassable barrier protected by deadly winds, no oxygen, and freezing jet fuel.
Let's completely shut that down right now. Based on documented science, this is 100% false. Humans actively explore deep into the continent all the time using planes, vehicles, and on-foot expeditions.
So the crucial point is that while an ice wall does physically exist, it is definitely not a secret global barrier keeping us penned in. It's called an ice shelf. These are simply massive, thick slabs of ice that form completely naturally when glaciers slowly flow off the land and spread out over the ocean water. These towering ice cliffs actually make up nearly 3/4 of Antarctica's coastline. So yeah, it's a completely natural, heavily explored geographical feature, not the edge of the world.
Which brings us to another highly entertaining internet mystery, the Google Maps doorway. Satellite imagery recently captured what looked exactly like a huge doorway carved right into the Antarctic snow. And, conspiracy theorists? They went absolutely wild. People were joking it was Bigfoot's winter vacation home, some hidden military base, or even a secret Star Trek spaceship hangar buried under the snow.
But let's ground this back in reality. That doorway was literally a grounded iceberg. See, when ice moves across the landscape, it flows around obstacles. Through very simple thermodynamic processes like melting, breaking apart, and refreezing, the ice gets carved into these highly unexpected shapes. Combine that with Antarctica's incredibly fierce downward-blowing winds that sculpt the ice like sandpaper over time, and you get natural formations that just happen to look surprisingly artificial. So, no secret alien doorways here, unfortunately.
With all these brutal, extreme forces at play, the deep freezes, the whirlpools, the relentless winds, you really have to ask, how do humans conquer the most extreme place on Earth today? I mean, how do scientists actually manage to live year-round at the brutal South Pole? Well, it takes sheer, unadulterated logistical miracles.
We're talking millions of dollars poured into these operations just to keep people alive. These research stations, they have to function as completely independent small cities. They require incredibly complex utilities for electricity, heating, and water purification. The biggest one, McMurdo Station, hosts over 1,000 people in the summer and even has its own fire station and gym. And the South Pole Station? It's located so incredibly deep inland that every single drop of fuel and scrap of food has to be supplied by planes flying thousands of miles through the extreme cold.
Supplying these high-tech outposts actually leads to a really fascinating logistical battle between two key gateway cities at the bottom of South America. On one side, you have Ushuaia, Argentina. It has the physical advantage of being closer, making it the top spot for tourist cruises, but it's military-controlled and doesn't allow regular private flights. On the other side is Punta Arenas, Chile. Even though it's physically further away, it's used by 22 different countries because they allow regular private flights. That makes Punta Arenas the highly efficient air connection that truly runs the show.
And this actually ties right into a rather stubborn historical mistake. When setting up its Antarctica airbase, Argentina chose to build the Marambio base very high up on rough, elevated terrain. Because of this high-altitude placement, you can't reach it by traditional land or sea logistics. That means absolutely everything has to be flown in by slow, extremely expensive helicopters. For 50 years, Argentina stuck to this challenging setup, while Chile strategically built highly accessible, efficient, sea-level bases that the broader international community now relies on.
But all of this incredible modern human infrastructure is currently facing a massive, unprecedented threat. Which brings us to the chilling climax of this explainer. Is Antarctica returning to its hot past? Keep in mind, this is a continent currently buried under miles of ice. It's a place where scientists traditionally expect temperatures to drop as insanely low as minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit.
Let's move to and see how this builds. We are back exactly where we started, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. In the winter of 2020 on Seymour Island, yep, the exact same island where they found the fossilized claws of those giant terror birds, scientists recorded this insane, record-breaking temperature. At that very moment, this deeply frozen landmass was literally hotter than many places in Europe.
So what's causing this? Researchers impartially point to dual scientific causes behind this historic heat wave, and it marks a shocking reversal for the continent. First, there are significant changes in how heat moves through global ocean waters, which is pulling warmer currents much further south. Second, a warming planet is causing the permafrost to actively melt. The data points to one undeniable conclusion. The climate on this isolated continent is changing way faster than anyone expected, rapidly reverting back toward those ancient warmer conditions.
It really is an incredible cycle of extreme survival, from prehistoric jungles and towering bird predators to miles of chaotic ice and now rapidly rising temperatures.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative question. If the ice completely thaws, what unknown terrors or miracles of adaptation will this continent reveal next? We've seen how life aggressively adapts to the freeze. Now, we might just have a front row seat to see how it adapts to the thaw. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning what you think you know about our world.